If you're enjoying the Health Geeks Book Club podcast, we'd appreciate if you hit the subscribe button, leave a like, rating, or review, whichever your preferred podcatcher platform allows.
This edition of our podcast is brought to you by 360 Health and Well Balanced Nutrition.
Welcome to the Health Geeks Book Club podcast. Listen in as Kristen Norton and Eleanor Russell review all those great health and wellness books you've been wanting to read or you have read and want to talk about. Here's Kristen and Eleanor.
Hey everybody, I am with Eleanor and we have a very special thing going on today.
I know it's our first ever
guest to the Health Geeks Book Club podcast.
Oh, so we're going to give this to you. I don't know if you guys can hear this.
Mr. Cyrus Bush, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, it is my pleasure. I'm honored and delighted to be here.
Awesome.
And my voice is doing funny things.
Sounds good as always, though.
Hey, Kristen, tell us why we invited Cyrus.
So,
I mean, we just didn't go out on the street and pull Cyrus in here, right?
Right.
Because we were desperate for a guest.
I was wondering what that big hook was.
Yeah.
I was just innocently walking down the street and wow. Yeah.
I'm game for this.
So as we're reading health topics, I met Cyrus, who tells me about tapping and showed me tapping, and it was really life-changing. And I was like, we need to read about tapping. Cyrus, give us a book that we can read and share with our audience. And he recommended The Science Behind Tapping. And I thought we would invite him here to talk with us about tapping and the book.
Well, I'm glad you did, because I think I mentioned when we were reviewing the Science Behind Tapping by Peta Stapleton that I had an experience in a meditation group where the leader decided to show us a tapping experiment. And so we took our index finger and third finger and started hitting our eyebrow and then underneath our eye and then underneath our nose and on our chin and on our collarbone and rib. And, you know, we did that a couple of times and then we moved on. So I had tapped myself, but not with any sort of intention or reason. So it's introduced. So when you started talking about it, I thought, yeah, we need to find out about tapping from someone who actually knows more than I could get out of this book.
The first time I ever experienced tapping, a friend of mine was trying to help me out because I was really stressed about something. And she said, I've got this technique that might help you. And I was a chaplain at Thomasville, in the hospital in Thomasville at that time, and was out walking by the lake. And so on a phone call with my friend, and she says, you tap here and you tap here. And I looked around to see if anybody's looking. I thought, she's trying to play a prank on me.
Yeah, exactly.
So it does, if you've never seen it, you think somebody's just, doing a weird thing.
Yeah, we talked about it being woohoo, and I think Peta Stapleton says when she was first introduced, it was like woo.
You disregard it, yeah.
Yeah, no. But she said she had a friend that it sort of suggested she do it, and she didn't, and then they were doing a training session together, and one of the participants needed individual care, so her friend took this person who was having a meltdown, did this with her, brought her back, and
5 minutes
yeah,
later.
yeah, and demonstrated. So then Peta got hooked.
Right,
I think.
yeah. It's really amazing.
And you got hooked after that phone call?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Did you calm down? You said you were stressed.
Oh yeah. Well, I didn't finish that story, but yeah, my stress level was probably a 9 out of a possible 10 when I thought about doing this presentation. And then after we did this tapping thing, it went away, and I was walking to my car that afternoon and I felt really light, and I thought, what in the world have I experienced today? And so I started looking for places that I could study and learn more about this technique, because I wanted it not just for me, but family and for patients at the hospital. And now as a retired chaplain, I use it with clients, and it's astonishing what can happen when you pair this up with psychology,
So it's a good tool on your Swiss Army knife, as Kendra Hadachi says.
I've never heard that, but I think it would be a good one.
Yeah.
Well, some people suggest if you take Advil or whatever, put a little note on the Advil that says, tapping also. Try do this, but tapping also too. So, it's not a cure-all, but it certainly is beneficial for lots and lots of different things, as you probably pointed out when you covered the book.
Cyrus, can you tell us a little bit? You said as a retired chaplain, now you help clients through tapping. Tell us a little bit about who you help and, what you do.
Okay. When I went into business, they said you need to find a niche or niche. I never know which is the correct pronunciation.
Me either.
I'm glad I'm not alone. And so I decided to focus on small business owners, entrepreneurs, and professionals because my first experience with the use of tapping was around performance anxiety, essentially. And so I think performance anxiety and stage fright and the fear of showing up and the fear of speaking out and the risk of being seen or being rejected is huge in all different areas. But so I focus my business, my website is focused toward small business owners and professionals. But honestly, I work with all different sorts of issues. It can be food cravings, it can be anxiety, it can be traumatic experiences from childhood. But yeah.
Yeah, and we talked about last episode that PETA goes into, it seems like tapping can make just about anything you're dealing with better. Mm-hmm. There's more research and science behind certain aspects like the trauma and the food cravings. But, some people have found relief with various things like chronic pain mm-hmm. and, like you said, stage fright.
Yeah.
So
allergies.
Allergies.
I used to have, I lived on Sudafed and Actived. I lived in another country for several years, and the pollution there was quite bad. And so I would rely on Actived and Sudafed to keep my sinuses clear. And so at one point I thought, after learning about this, let's see if it works to fix that up. And so I've not used anything for allergies in forever. If something bothers me, I tap. And it's really remarkable. Yeah.
Oh, they were talking about stress, anxiety, and depression, which I think we know it's effective for that.
It is.
But so many people in the United States right now are experiencing those symptoms. And is this something that you can do by yourself, or do you need to have an experienced or an expert guide you through it, or what would be your recommendations?
You can learn the basics for doing the tapping yourself, and you can do a lot of good for yourself, but I have found that it works best if you do it with another person, somebody else who knows tapping, a practitioner. But it's what you talked about, stress and depression. The numbers have increased exponentially since we've been going through this COVID pandemic.
And children.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I want so much to get the word out about how to use this tool. If people can get past the fact that it looks strange, it's not your typical thing. And yes, it's woo-woo, but we've learned.
But it's not. According to the book that we
there's
read,
scientific research. Harvard has done a 10-year study on the effectiveness of tapping these acupressure points, and they've done brain scans on how if you are looking at this delicious food, then after 4 weeks, only 8 hours of tapping, the same picture that lit your brain up earlier doesn't have that effect anymore. And so if there are situations that are lighting your brain up because your amygdala, your fight or flight center is getting triggered, if you know how to tap on that fear or that anxiety, it can change the way you respond and react to it. God bless you.
I might need to tap.
Maybe we need to tap on that.
Sorry, keep going.
No, okay, that was sort of a stopping point. I'm not, but yeah, it's really impressive when you look at the fact that they're doing all sorts of clinical trials and scientific research into the reasons that it works, and it gives it validity and credibility. For the longest time, when it first came out, PETA was talking about they said that it's based on acupressure and acupuncture and psychology, and you tell people this, and their eyes just sort of glaze over. Uh-huh. But if you can point to a 10-year study by Harvard, that has a whole different weight to it.
For the allopathic people in this country, I wonder if other countries are adapting this or have used it before.
The tapping? Mm-hmm. I think there's indications that the acupressure points were used thousands of years ago in Chinese medicine. But the pairing of the psychology and that was done by Roger Callahan is my first understanding, which is only like back in the 1970s and 80s.
Yes.
So it was remarkable. Did you hear how he discovered that the use of it?
Go ahead.
Well, he had a client who had a water phobia. I'm glad you asked.
Yes.
And nothing he did, she didn't respond. And so she said, when I look at the water in your swimming pool, I feel this discomfort in my gut. And he knew enough about Chinese acupressure points to know that the point under your eye, under the pupil, is associated with the gut. And he said, okay, Mary, tell me about your fear of water, all the different aspects of it, when it started and so forth. And so she started talking about her fear of water. And as she did, that phobia, which had been with her forever, melted away. And he was astonished, she was astonished, and he started doing all kinds of research to see how in the heck this thing works and can it be used for other things. And he found that it could be used for all sorts of things. And he did this thing called muscle testing, and he would put different points, acupressure points, together for specific problems. He had a student, Gary Craig, who decided if you put all these different points together, you'll get the right point.
Yeah.
So he just put them all in his tapping scripts, and that's what we've inherited at this point.
Was that story about the woman, did she walk by like a kiddie pool of water and would have the symptoms as well? I mean, not even trying to get in a boat or anything.
No. It wasn't just big bodies of water. It was just baths,
So how
showers.
Debilitating.
I know, so debilitating.
I mean, it's so debilitating.
And that's just one example of phobias. There are all sorts of phobias that you can use this for. They don't respond necessarily that quickly, but you can address it, and you can get all sorts of good results with this technique.
Well, as a former teacher, I was interested in the young people section in here with test anxiety and, people being able to show what they really understand. But if we measure with a test, it doesn't reflect really what the student knows. And they said something like 30% of our college students are on antidepressants right now.
Yeah.
This is not good.
No, it's not.
Not good. And I wonder if it's getting worse or if it's always been that way for college students.
Well, I don't really know.
I don't know either.
I don't know. The thing of test anxiety is a real thing for me. I was going for my Master of Music degree. I was doing a test, the oral exam that you have to take. And my brain just would not respond. After the test was over and I was walking home, I said, oh, well, this was the answer for that, and this was the answer for that, and this was the answer for that. Where were you when I needed you? So I had to take that twice.
Well, and that's not an uncommon experience at all.
No.
So how are we getting the word out to people about tapping other than our podcast?
Well, that's a great question. I keep trying to raise the awareness in my referral groups. I have a website. I'm going to have a Wednesday Chamber of Commerce group. And so everywhere I go, I keep trying to raise the awareness level about that. I'm going to start doing YouTube videos that I will post hopefully weekly with just maybe 5 or 6 minutes on how to tap for this. And I'm wanting to do some podcasts with Tim Beeman.
I know him.
So they can find you through Tim, and you have a website?
I do. It's A Confident Performer, aconfidentperformer.com. And I have a business Facebook page, A Confident Performer.
Right.
And
well, in this book that we read together, The Science Behind Tapping, there was a whole lot of, you heard me reeling off all of these acronyms like CAM, CBT, but EMDR was one that she said paired with tapping is interesting, and I wasn't that familiar. I'd begun to hear a little rumble about this, but it's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. Do you have any experience with?
I don't have any training in
EMDR. Pair them,
I do have a sister modality that I've studied. It's called hacking reality or matrix reimprinting.
Okay, well, tell us about that.
And in that, well, no, that's not true. Actually, in level 2 of EFT, you do a technique that incorporates closing your eyes, opening your eyes while you're tapping the 9-gamut point, which is on your hand between your pinky bone and your ring finger bone, 1 inch back from where that is. That's hard to describe without showing it.
Metacarpal.
Thank you. So you can use that, and you are talking about the problem, even though I use it when I can't sleep, even though I'm having trouble falling asleep. And you roll your eyes one way, and then you go back the other way. You say, I really choose to release.
And do you verbalize that out loud?
I do.
I mean, because it sounds like the advice is to say these things out loud because it has an effect on
the EMDR, and my understanding of the eye movement is that it helps the left side and the right side of the brain to communicate with each other, and also in that you count and you also hum. So one uses one side of the brain, the other uses the other side of the brain. So it's ganging up on whatever your problem is.
Cool.
Yeah, there are all sorts of different tools that you learn if you study EFT. So if any of your friends or associates have a desire to be in the program or in the business of helping people heal and have more health and joy in their life, this is a great thing to learn. And I'm doing a training event in February, next February, where I'll teach levels 1 and 2, of EFT.
So is it a certification process?
It's a step in the certification process. Yes, there is certification. Some of the amazing EFT practitioners are not certified.
Yeah.
I am certified, but I realized that you can learn these skills, and rather quickly, you've got tools that can help people who might be triggered by this event or that instance. We're always looking for things, and our fight or flight center, the amygdala's saying, okay, let's beware. And so if something resembles an event that hurt you in the past or that was dangerous in the past, then it causes a physiological response and emotional, as you know. And so it starts releasing cortisol, it starts releasing adrenaline, and maybe you don't really need that because somebody just said something at the water cooler, and so now you're stuck with all these chemicals cascading through your body, causing distress and discomfort. So if people know that they can use this tool and say, even though she hurt my feelings and I'm feeling really furious, I accept that this is how I'm feeling, and I accept myself. And so you tap at these different points. Top of the head, I am so furious. Where the eyebrow starts, I am so furious. The side of the eye, I am so angry I could bite nails. Under the eye, and you focus on the problem, which seems counterintuitive.
Yes, it does.
I'm so angry. Under the nose, I could just bite nails. On the chin, I am so angry. And you just do that. And when I tell people, it's time to change gears when you yawn or you feel an energy shift, and after you've tapped around a while, it doesn't seem quite so horrible and hideous. And the fact that she said it doesn't seem the end of the world. Yeah. And so then you come to the place of saying, I really don't want to hold this anger all afternoon. I don't want to keep holding this anger and bitterness. It doesn't even bother her. Yeah. She doesn't even know I'm angry and I'm seething. So I give myself permission to release this anger, and you can just have this calm and peace wash over you, and it changes the complexion of your afternoon or your day or evening.
Well, like you're saying, what's happening physiologically is you're down-regulating that cortisol kick.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And all of the sequela that comes after that causes discomfort at the cellular level, which if you maintain that stress or that anger can really become a physical problem.
And you can get hooked on that. And you can feel like you're not in the right place if you don't have this going on in your body. And it's very bad for us physiologically. Our organs suffer, our relationships suffer.
Well, she even, in her book, she suggested there's a genetic regulation or suppression of gene expression or gene expression. So even at a genetic level, because it's chemicals, because the chemicals cascades get started, and this is interfering and interrupting that. Yes. And she's saying the somatization is what she thinks is really important above cognitive behavioral therapy.
Involving the body. Somatic.
That takes it to what she's calling that fourth wave of therapies that are going to be available to people.
Yeah, when I first did a session, Cyrus was able to kind of take me through a tapping thing. And my first thought was like, well, it's just these positive things, right? I'm addressing the issue at hand, I'm accepting it, and then I'm open to the possibility of it changing. And just saying that out loud, that's probably what's changing it. And then, the more tapping sessions, I know there's something to this actual physical tapping on your body as you say this. And Peta, points that out in the book that, no, it really is the combination of both that make it so fast and effective and that changes your brain.
And they've done the research where they've done groups that have the combined therapy, groups without it, and then the no therapy, and then they look at the results and this is the success. You said getting hooked on stuff, and that always makes me think of addictions. Does this have any relevance to addiction?
Sure. You can use it for addictions.
Is it helping people?
It helps people, absolutely. People who are addicted to cigarettes, all sorts of things, you can help them. It's not an overnight fix. It can take several sessions, but this is certainly a way. And it's sort of like the light bulb. You know how many? I don't. No, I've got to be careful what I say.
This is a safe group.
Is it a safe group? Well, no. I have a high regard for EFT practitioners. You know how many EFT practitioners it takes to change a light bulb?
20.
Just one, but the light bulb needs to want to change.
Oh.
I hope that was not in poor taste.
No, it was not. It was funny.
Well, that's a good point. You have to want to change, and you have to be willing to address. Like, I think it all boils down to these limited beliefs that we have, these limiting beliefs. So when she goes into the cravings in the weight loss chapter, she finds that the cravings are really driven, or the overeating is driven by like deep-rooted beliefs that they can't waste food, that they're going to be deprived if they don't eat that, or So I think that it's not just surface level. When you tap on things, you really get down to the root of it.
Yeah, and it's like peeling an onion, layers and layers of an onion, and the weight issue for a lot of people is so complicated. I mean, it can be the fact that I'm going to put this buffer, this armor on me that's going to protect me from the world. It's going to insulate me from pain. I'm not going to be desirable, or I've had weight issues since I was in 4th grade. And if I lose too much, I don't feel real comfortable. But if I have too much weight, I don't feel comfortable. So I clearly still have some work to do.
Amen, brother.
On that.
To the sweet spot.
Yeah. But I also realized that I used to just have to have chocolate. And I don't. I've got Dove chocolates in my top drawer, and I rarely eat one because I've tapped on that, and it doesn't drive me. So you can change the wiring in your brain. Your neural pathways actually change and get rewired.
Well, it's comprehensive wellness people, which is where I kind of come from. I didn't see any comment in her book about exercise, those sorts of things. And we know, so I think these are complementary. All of these practices are complementary. And if you have good nutrition, if you have rest. If you're laughing, right? If you're taking time to rest.
And exercise, move the body.
Exercise.
So important.
We've read several accounts where, the benefits of moving your body is probably more important than what you eat, I think.
I have a friend a friend, Tom Doyle, worked at the hospital in Thomasville, and he said if they could bottle the benefits of walking, you could sell it and make a fortune. Yeah. Just the benefits of walking alone.
Yeah.
But then you'd miss walking.
I know.
You're trying to make a profit on that already, darling. Here we were saying this EFT is affordable. Really, it's an affordable therapy.
Yeah.
Effective therapy. Sounds like a good thing for us to talk about.
Well, yeah, you mentioned EMDR, and that is reimbursed by insurance. So we're really hoping that the more research we get, that the tapping can be
a reimbursable.
I think
the trajectory is going in that direction, and it's a matter of time until people will be able to get insurance coverage for the treatments they get from an EFT practitioner. It's a powerful modality. I mean, it's just astonishing. And
I'm not familiar with matrix re-imprinting, and both of you have mentioned that, and she does mention it, and I wasn't clear. Can you tell our listeners a little bit more
in a nutshell what happens if you do matrix re-imprinting? You help a client or yourself locate a painful memory, say from childhood, when something horrible happened to you, or something really embarrassing or hurtful or painful happened, and what they say, if we have these events that are too large to digest emotionally, we can't metabolize events, then they sort of get stuck in a kind of a time capsule.
And would you even be aware of it, or does this help you find that?
No, you might not be aware of it.
This will help you find that.
This can help you locate things that are sapping your energy. You're dragging all these things around with you that you can't see, but they're taking your life energy. And so with matrix re-imprinting or hacking reality, you can go in and tap with your younger self. It sounds woo-woo, even more than just tapping, but you can imagine
Be the 3-year-old.
Your younger self, and so you talk. I've done it with my younger Cyrus. He was 11 years old, and tapped on this horrible thing that happened, and then you change the picture so that it's not a dreadful, horrible, painful picture anymore, and the original thing happened, but it doesn't have the same power anymore.
Yeah, that's what Krista was saying. You don't erase these things.
It doesn't.
You just get them in perspective, maybe.
Right.
A healthy perspective.
Yeah.
Can I share a fun example of that?
Please do.
It's fun because Cyrus helped me, before we started this podcast, do some matrix re-imprinting on a story of my past or limiting belief that I didn't even know could be like making me feel nervous about going out there into the world and doing a podcast. So I think he asked me, when is the time where you put yourself out there and you felt like rejected or embarrassed? And so my mind went back to, I was in middle school probably at a dance, and somebody's dad was being mean, and I decided to I'm going to stand up for that, my friend, and say, hey, that wasn't right. And then I just got not made fun of, but degraded, I guess, by that dad. And so you had me kind of re-envision how that would happen, and if he would have said something maybe nice to me, or I could even, I think we talked about how I could envision him, understanding him from an adult perspective, maybe he just didn't know how to respond to that situation. But then you had me kind of recreate that.
Yeah, the younger self usually has an idea of what a new picture would look like. I can't remember exactly what
what my new picture was, but it was a happy ending that I recreated. And then my homework was to kind of think about the new ending a couple days in a row.
Yeah, you write a couple of paragraphs about what your new picture looks like, and then you practice it for 6 or 8 days, something like that. Or if it's a really severe thing, you practice for 21 days.
Yeah.
Review it.
Wonderful.
And so here we are. I had the guts to do this podcast.
Yes,
I'm so proud of you.
Cyrus.
Thank you, Cyrus. We've been having fun.
I'm so glad.
Yeah. Well, anything else we want to say about tapping? Cyrus, do you have anything you want to share with us?
I just love it, and I want people to discover it and use it, because the world has never needed this kind of help more than it does at this point. So, explore it, look into it. There are all sorts of places you can find information on YouTube. You can find people doing that on YouTube. You can just Google EFT tapping. You can go to my website. You can contact me. And I do a free 30-minute session with folks to discover if this might be a good fit for where they are and what they're going through. So it's my honor to help change the world, one patient, one client at a time.
Oh, I love that.
I love that too.
I tried it with my daughter last night, my 8-year-old.
Really?
So she has this thing where she says, oh, I'm so bad. And she'll start hitting herself. And I'm like, no, we got to stop that. So, I just try to reframe it and let her know, we all make mistakes. But last night I tried tapping because this was on my mind. And I said, do this with me, honey. Let's just try this. And, I'm so bad. We started with, I'm so bad. I don't like to disappoint people. I make mistakes. And then we turned it around to, but I'm human. We all make mistakes, and it's okay. We can all. And I could just feel the energy. She's like, it shifted.
Good for you.
And I was like, yay, it worked. And we'll keep trying this. But, I think you asked earlier, should you do it yourself or get an expert? And I think both are very valuable. Try it out on yourself and, the smaller things. And then definitely seek an expert for someone, to build that relationship and rapport with and dig a little deeper than you might be able to do on your own.
Yeah, and you see things, because I've been in sessions with Cyrus too. You see things differently, because when it's like writing your own paper and then editing it yourself, you know what's in your head. You don't see the outside perspective. And sometimes, especially with Cyrus, he can bring out the other side, or at least a different perspective in your thing. But also, I believe it is very important that you can be inward facing as well, and doing it on your self practice to strengthen. Practice makes perfect.
Yeah,
to strengthen. Yes, right, or better. And it gives you an opportunity force inner inflection, but going to someone professionally also gives you a different perspective inside. No, so it's not just introspection as much as introspection, as much as extrospection. So
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Cyrus, for joining us and being our first guest.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for raising the awareness level about tapping for the world.
Oh, this has been great. I love having guests. So we want to do this again. And maybe you'll come back and visit us at another time. You never know.
I would be delighted.
Right.
Sure,
Yeah.
I would.
And
Absolutely.
listeners out there, let us know what you think of our first guest. And
And write a review.
write a review. Send us a comment. Let us know. And maybe we can have some more guests around. And let us know if you tried tapping.
Indeed.
where can they leave a review?
Can you help us with that, Tim?
I can. So you're probably listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or Amazon or Audible or any of those things. All platforms are different, but whatever your platform, your preferred podcast platform allows, leave a review or a rating or just suggestion, and share it and subscribe. If you're listening to this for the first time, subscribe so you know every week on Thursday mornings you have a new episode. So subscribe, like, review, rate,
And
share, all that stuff.
We would appreciate it.
Yes.
Help us share the wellness.
That's right.
Have a great day.
The views and opinions stated in this podcast are solely those of the contributors and are not necessarily those of our distributors or hosting company. This podcast is copyrighted, and no part can be reproduced without the expressed written consent of Kristen and Eleanor.